Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this afternoon we have with us from Nashville, Tennessee, Chadwick Meyers of the Meyers Injury Law Firm. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate it.
Good deal. Looks like, are you still drinking coffee?
I am still drinking coffee. Yeah, I am. In this little mug I got that keeps the coffee warm, but was messing with it yesterday. I spilled coffee all over myself, so now I got the lid on. So yeah, that's a great invention because I'll drink coffee all day and it just goes cold. So
I love it. You got a machine there, or how do you make it?
Just a Keurig. Yeah.
Keurig. That's even faster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get in the system fast. Yeah. No, it's funny. The first job I took, I used to drink tea as a kid growing up in my family. I went to like a real office and it was a pain to make it. And they had this pot. It was like always brewing it. All I did was drink coffee literally the whole day.
Yeah. I love it. I probably should drink a lot more water. My wife says I need to drink more water. I don't drink enough water. I maybe drink like 1 glass a day. I need to drink more.
Yeah, you should drink at least your body weight in ounces, every day.
Oh man, I don't know if I could do that. I tried to drink a gallon of water one day. I don't know how these guys do it. They'll carry around gallons of water, and I'm just not about it. But I need to. That's what I need to do. I need to start drinking more water. I'm sure I'd feel better.
Keep doing it, man. We need you doing good work. You got to drink some water.
I got to stay young. As you know, I got newborn twins, and they keep me up all night. So I got to figure out a way to stay more healthy.
There you go. All right, good. Well, listen, with that as a segue, tell everybody about your law practice.
Yeah. As you said, I'm based out of Nashville. I actually just moved offices, which is why it's kind of barren here, to a suburb of Nashville, which is Brentwood, which is like 10 minutes outside of downtown Nashville.
Okay.
And I've been practicing since 2018, and I went out on my own right out of law school, started my business, and my first office was a $700 a month office that I rented from some criminal lawyers that was right next to a liquor store and the Nashville Rescue Mission. So we always had homeless people that were coming around and getting drunk out in front of our office and stuff. And so whenever I got to the point where I could afford it, I relocated to a nicer area, which was Green Hills, and I was there for a while. And then now I'm out in Brentwood, and I practice primarily injury law. I handle car accidents, truck accidents, slip and falls, and burn injuries, things like that. And then I also have a kind of a niche area practice where I do funeral home negligence and crematory negligence, which is the industry I grew up in. My family owns funeral homes in Kansas City, which is where I'm from, that's Union Station, where they just had the draft.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I grew up there, and I grew up in the funeral homes. If I wanted extra money, I was, vacuuming, I was cleaning the prep room, I was cleaning the embalming instruments. My dad would have me in a suit and tie, and I'd be handing out obituaries to people who walked in. It wasn't uncommon for me to have to help him, putting bodies into a casket before viewing, or I've even gone to pick up bodies from houses that have passed away with my dad. So when I was growing up, he took a lot of pride in what he did. He always said that's when you need somebody the most is when you've lost somebody, which I think inadvertently that's how that's kind of how I got into injury law. I'm not going to sit here and say I was the guy that went to law school and said I'm going to be a personal injury attorney, but
right.
I lost a cousin to drunk driving when I was 6. So I take those drunk driving cases pretty personal. And then my father, who was a mortician, I think it was just kind of fate, I guess you would say. That's why I do those types of cases. I get a lot of referrals in those cases. They're pretty difficult cases. I take maybe out of every 10 intakes I do, I maybe take 1 or 2 cases. And they're fun. Like I said, I think I told you before, if I could focus and only do injury cases and survive, then or not injury cases. If I could focus and only do funeral home negligence and crematory negligence cases, I would. I mean, I don't think my dad's too happy that I went that route, but there's, like he says, there's bad funeral directors, just like there's bad lawyers, there's bad doctors, there's in your profession, there's always people that are doing the right things.
Absolutely. It doesn't discriminate. It's like anything, it doesn't matter what you do for a living.
Yeah, I mean, you get lawyers that you see on the ethics reports that have been stealing from their clients, that see doctors that have been negligent or reckless, so like everything. So at first, I remember when I took my first case, he was kind of like, what the hell, and then it's easier for me though, because if I get a case and I'm struggling, if I'm looking at the embalming report or something like that, I'm kind of struggling on why, what angle I need to take. It's easy. I can just pick up the phone. Hey, where these guys screw up at? It's my dad and I will talk through a case, and sometimes it's not, below the standard of care. Sometimes it's a family that's just, gone through a hard time and lost somebody and upset about something that happened. And I have to explain to them that, it's not a case that you can move forward with, and that maybe they were, they treated you wrong, but they weren't necessarily negligent or reckless in the way they did things.
Yeah. Wait, so did you go right from college to law school?
I took a year off. And then I went to National School of Law here in Nashville, which is a part-time law school. I graduated and didn't have any debt. You pay as you go at that school, so it was great. I graduated with no law school debt, and I think that helped me to be able to kind of have the bandwidth to be able to survive. I mean, I started my law firm, I remember, in, what was it? I think it was April, and I didn't make a penny until I think it was January of the next year, where I settled a case. I remember it was just it was a commercial rearing case. Lady went straight to local hospital here. She went EMS to the hospital, didn't have really any severe injuries. I took the case and I settled it, and I think I settled for it wasn't a giant case. It was like 35 grand, but I remember I got a check and it was for 10,000, and I was like, I'm rich. I can't believe this. And so that was the first case I ever settled, and I used that, like I said, I kept my overhead really low. I rented an office that I actually had to buy a air conditioner and put it through the window, because there was no, in the summer it was so hot, because there was the air. It was such an old building. I think it was the reason I got in there was because one of my mentors used to practice, and he had an office there. So when he retired, he was like, hey, he introduced me to people, and I was able to get in there for pretty cheap. But, you got to have a place, remote work really back. I don't think it wasn't prevalent back then,
Right.
I'm not a fan of remote work. I have to separate my being at home and being here. Like I did at COVID, I can't get away from my work. I have to be able to leave the office and leave it here. And that's the way that I'm able to balance my work-life balance,
Yeah. Well, listen, I certainly hope we go back to some in-office routine at some point. Otherwise, the office market is gone.
Yeah,
and I think it's healthy too. I think it's actually healthy to your point as well.
Yeah, I like the camaraderie. I like seeing staff and talking to them and being able to pop into the office and say, hey, what's going on with this case, or hey, you need help with anything. And
Sure.
I like to think I'm kind of a relaxed boss. Like my staff, if they just as long as you get your shit done, I really don't care. If you got to go get your hair done in the middle of the day, that's fine with me, as long as hey, do you have any demands that need to be sent out? Do we have client, and you know, are you gonna have your phone? That's my golden rule is like, hey, have your phone on you, don't miss an intake. You know, if you can't take a call, let me know. I'll do the intakes, I'll talk to the clients, and I talk to every client we have. You know, that's I don't ever want to lose that connection with clients. But you know, my staff, I like them to be in the office, but again, you know, I'm not super strict. Like if they need to they want to go get their nails done, they want to take a long lunch, I don't care, as long as your stuff's done, it's not piling up. You don't have to ask me.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it. That's pretty gutsy though. Graduating, just starting your own thing. Most people wouldn't do that. Where'd that come from?
So I went and I talked to a couple lawyers, and I talked to a guy here in Nashville. He's a good friend of mine. His name's Matt Patempa, and he has his own law firm. He had been kind of, when I graduated, we would meet up for beers, and he'd kind of talk to me about things. And you know, I just made that. I went and had informational interviews with people. You know, I wasn't sure what route I wanted to go. You know, I worked at the public defender's office through law school, where I was able to do a Rule 7 practice. So I was able to get on my feet in court and represent people, and you know, have hearings. And you know, I was having preliminary hearings when I was just, you know, at 2L in law school. So it was great for me to get on my feet in court and things like that. So when I graduated, I knew I wanted to be in court, and I knew I wanted to be my own boss, because I think I had kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. You know, I wanted to make it work, because I'm not gonna get where I want to be by making somebody else money.
Right.
So I met with Matt, and I was like, you know, I really want to start my own law firm, and I want to do this type of work, and I want to do trial work and things. And he's like, well, then you just need to just bite the bullet, because you're young, and what's going to happen is you're going to go into a law firm, and and I get asked this a lot. Like, I talk to people who are in law firms and they want to start their own business, and I'm happy to always talk to somebody who's interested in starting their own business. I had lunch with a guy from Colorado a couple of weeks ago who wanted to start his own law firm, and he was asking me things, just random things, down to what printer he should buy, you know, things like that. So I asked him, and he's like, man, you're going to go to the law firm, and you're going to end up working for somebody else, and you're going to get the salary, you're going to get the health insurance, you're going to get all that. You know, your milk's going to be brought to you in a bowl, and you're not going to have to work for the cases to get the cases in. And he goes, then one day you're going to want to go out on your own, and it's going to be 10 times harder, because you've got all of this, you know, you've got a family, and I was single, I didn't have kids or anything like that. So it was an opportunity for me to just kind of, you know, be poor and grind. And I was fortunate that I had a house that I had sold, that I made some money on, that kind of lasted me through when I was starting. You know, the guy just told, you know, Matt told me, he's like, hey, you're going to get to a point where you want to go on your own. It's going to be 10 times harder. So bite the bullet now. And that was single-handedly the best advice I think I had ever gotten. And it's not impossible. If I can do it, if my dumbass can do it, I guarantee, like, anybody else who's going out of law school and who's, you know, working for somebody else that wants to start their own firm, they can do it. It's just, in a world where everybody is trying to get the same types of cases, like the car wrecks, stuff like that, run-of-the-mill cases to keep their doors open, you've got to find a way to differentiate yourself. And That's what I think I've done with the funeral home case. You know, I've taken cases in different states. I've been called on different, even if it's a case where they don't bring me in as counsel, they just say, hey, can you look at this and let me know the angle that you think I should take. And I'm always happy. I love talking about cases with other people, even if they don't bring me in on it. I've made a connection, and I'm able to help somebody else out. Rising tides lift all boats, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you cover things nationally? You got to be licensed. Or can they?
So there's
habeas. What is the?
It's called ProHoc visa. You can ProHoc, but you got to be careful. There's certain states where, like, I forget the state. I think it's Montana. I could be wrong, but there's a state where you can only ProHoc in 2 times for your entire life.
Oh,
so ProHoc into that state, you better be damn sure that it's a case worth doing. You want to pro hoc in and be a case you lose, or a case that, is not worth doing that. So
Right.
there's states that you can, but you have to have local counsel. For example, I'm handling some of the pressure cooker cases that I've filed in Florida, in the 15th district of Florida, which I have local counsel there that basically I pro hoc in through them, that oversees all the filings, things like that. And multiple other lawyers are involved that have done that. But then you've got lawyers that are licensed in 5 other states. They can take those cases all over. I get associated on different cases, or I'm local counsel. I'm local counsel for some people that are outside of Tennessee that come in here and practice because they don't really want to. It could be anything from they don't want to give the case up, or that the client just says, "Hey, I really like you. I want you to stay involved, and I don't want you just referring my case out." So,
But that's pretty common, right? Cooperative, you guys co-counsel, you share the fees, et cetera, right?
yeah, it's pretty common unless your ethical rules by whatever state you're going by prevent that. I believe there are some that prevent doing, referral fees, but if you're involved in the case significantly, yeah.
Yes. Well, do you like to do that, or do you like to handle the whole thing yourself?
It just depends, it depends on the type of case. It depends on, like, I don't handle any med mal cases.
Okay.
It depends on the type of case, and the reason is because you got to know what you don't know, right? So that is what I really kind of go off of. If you got to know what you don't know, and if there's a lawyer that is more apt and better off to handle the case and get the client a good result, then you need to do the right thing and hand off that case to the other lawyer. It's just like I don't handle any, but if you hire me to do your criminal law case, like, you're probably going to go to jail, because I would, what the hell I'm doing. And if you hire me to do your divorce case, you're going to give your spouse all your money. I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing. So those cases, if they come in, I don't market for them or anything. They get referred out to somebody that can handle it. And I don't need a referral fee or anything. I just get them the right lawyer that could do the job. I don't believe in jack of all trade lawyers. I think that, if you're in like a small town, I guess I can see that. But, I don't believe in jack of all trades, because you're not going to be elite.
Master of none.
Yeah, you're not going to you got to focus. You're not going to be an elite lawyer at any of those trades.
Right.
Focusing on too many things at one time. That's why I don't handle med mal. I wouldn't know. It wouldn't be, it's so, I haven't handled any med mal just because I associate with other lawyers. Like, I will refer the case out and stay somewhat involved, but I don't by any means spearhead it.
Got it. Yeah, no, I agree with your comment about you got to carve out a niche, whatever that niche is, but you got to carve out a niche, otherwise you're competing with everybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's what I've done with the funeral stuff. And I think people kind of, it's not an economic, essentially, it's not going to be an economic case. I mean, those are all non-economic damages, but I've got in cases that are negligent embalming cases where the embalmer didn't do a proper job, where, because you got to think, embalming, even though we've been embalming for so many years, what's changed? Like, the medicines we take, how people pass away. If somebody's passed away, and for example, I got a case where the person passed away from liver failure, and that's something that a embalmer needs to know. Okay, if they pass away from liver failure, they're going to be what's called jaundicey, and they're going to get discolored, and they need to use a certain embalming mix. If you use a family mix on somebody that's 450 pounds and has died of liver disease, that embalming is going to fail, and she or he or she is going to decompose, and then the family, the family ended up actually, I can't get too much into it, but they actually saw the body, and that was a breach in the standard of care too. Our funeral homes back in Kansas City, if somebody's passed away and they've decomposed to a state that my father, whoever is running the funeral home at that point in time, doesn't feel like it's appropriate for the family to see it, they'll say that. They'll say, it's just, you're not going to want to see your family member at this point in time. They're not in very good shape. They may show up a hand, something like that. But then if they insist, then they have to sign a waiver. That's a breach of standard of care if you're going to show somebody that type of body. Or it could be a wrongful cremation. Did they get a proper cremation authorization? Did they mix up the cremains? I've handled multiple misidentification cremation cases that where by law they need to have a titanium tag. They have to be in the cremations. And I've got a case right now where they had mixed it up, and the family went to spread the ashes of their mother, and they get a handful of ashes, and there's a titanium tag in there of the wrong name, and they're sitting here spreading this person's ashes, thinking it's their mother on Mother's Day. It's a terrible case, and they're pretty difficult cases because a lot of times, when there is a negligent handling of a body, there's only two people that know, and one of them's passed away, and the other one's the person that messed up. So, that's why they're pretty technical cases, and you've got to know what you're looking for whenever you take them. You've got to make sure you get the embalming report. You got to understand why the person passed away, how they passed away. Did they check all the boxes when they embalmed that person? They're interesting.
So who's liable? The funeral home is responsible and liable. Do they carry insurance for those kind of things?
Yes.
Yes.
They do. Yeah, they're usually, it's a commercial insurance policy, and a lot of times, they've got excess coverage and things like that. They're, they should. If they don't, that's another problem in and of itself. I didn't handle this case, but I remember reading about a case where a funeral home had not locked the embalming room. The prep room is what it's called. And a lady had passed away, and her boyfriend actually got into the prep room, took the body, and it disappeared. They never found it. Because the funeral home, those prep rooms are locked down. They've got multiple layers of security you get into them. And from what I read, it was not great for the funeral home. They tapped out all the insurance. It was not great. And then you've got other cases like the tri-state case where, they were basically discarding human bodies all throughout. That was a really bad one. So there's notable cases, and they're very interesting to me. I enjoy reading about them and things like that, just because of how involved I've always been in the industry.
Oh yeah. So if it weren't for those type of cases, what else would you do? You don't have enough of those to.
Right. No, I handle a lot of car accident cases, trucking cases, burn cases. I've got a few burn cases, explosion cases. That I don't work the explosion cases by myself. I associate with a firm with that. And then, premises liability, as everybody knows, those are difficult cases, but I really want to get better at those cases. I want to evolve practice and become more knowledgeable about those cases, just because, you get intakes on I take premises cases, but then there's firms around here that'll say, no, we don't mess with premises cases or whatever. I say, okay, great, good, more for me. But I really want to evolve my practice and get better at those types of cases. I know there's a lot of great lawyers out there that have handled those cases and have had really good success for their clients. So,
well, that would give you probably a niche, right? If most people are not going to take those cases, you can carve out. Yeah.
And I handle products liability cases. Like I said, I'm handling a few of the Sunbeam pressure cooker cases with the faulty lids that have been exploding, and just the general personal injury cases that, like you said, I'm not a volume firm because I don't want to be a volume firm. I want to pick and choose the cases I take, and I want to be able to talk to every single client that I bring in. I don't ever want a client to say, man, I haven't talked to Chad Meyers and his name's on the door, and all I do is deal with his paralegal or his info people or his case managers. And I don't ever want that reputation, because around Nashville, we have firms like that where they literally have never talked to a lawyer, whether they let that firm go and they come to me and say, I never even talked to a lawyer. I just got an intake. I went and got treatment. And I just, that's not that's not the image I want to have. I want to have a relationship with my clients.
Yeah. So what's the goal for the business? I mean, do you want to expand beyond you? Do you want?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think my goals for the business is I'd like to open up another office somewhere in Tennessee, preferably Chattanooga. And I'd like to have an office in Chattanooga. I'd like to have one in Memphis, and I'd like to have one in Knoxville. So I'd like to have multiple offices throughout the state. I've only been practicing for 7 years, or 6 years. So I feel like I've made great strides to build the business to what I built it, and to get the cases to come in. But that's the thing, you got to get the cases to come in. You got to make sure your marketing's good. You can't be like, I heard a saying where the guy was like, marketing is hard because it's like New Year's resolutions where everybody goes to the gym for a month and then stops.
Right.
With marketing, you just got to be able to continue to do it. And I don't do the billboards and stuff like that, but I'm big on SEO and pay-per-click stuff like that. I need to be better about social media. I'll admit that. I've got room. I'm not by any means perfect. I've got room to kind of hone in and get better at marketing, but just trying to figure it out. I feel like I'm kind of a limbo with the office move and stuff. But
Yeah, once you get settled in, have you about PILMA, right?
I'm sorry.
Do you know PILMA? That's designed for personal injury marketing. PILMMA.
No.
Well, you got to check that one out.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's specifically designed. In fact, it stands for Personal Injury Marketing Association. PIL.
What do they do?
MMA. They help you think about like how do you run your personal injury practice like a business, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's 100% focused on.
Yeah, I really I enjoy the business side. If I could get to the point where I'm handling the business side and the marketing and being involved with it, I do it every Thursday morning is my marketing time. I have a weekly Zoom call with my marketing company and team, and I really try to just focus in on that for that half of the day.
Oh, good.
But no, there's definitely room to grow. But like I said, if I could get to the point where I'm only handling the business side, the marketing and things like that, and then in the other 50%, I'm just trying the cases. That's what I would love to do, because I love trying the cases, and I think that if I, continue to do what I'm doing, eventually I'll get there. But at this point, it's kind of got my hand in everything.
Yeah. And then you'll be playing golf and you won't be seeing your clients.
No. My wife told me I don't get to play golf much anymore. My wife, and she's right. She said, I'd rather you play golf during the week than on the weekends, because I do have newborn twins and I need to spend time with them. But I haven't got to play much golf. I'll probably shoot like 110 next time I try to go play.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can keep it in the low 90s, it's a good day for me. But I enjoy being out there, listening to music, drinking beer. I don't take myself too serious. And whenever I see a person that's like not great at golf and they get pissed, I just want to be like, you're not good enough to be that mad. You're not good enough to get mad.
Well, you're describing most golfers.
Yeah, it's just it's not fun for anybody if you got to do. Like, I played with a couple of guys that they get so pissed. I'm like, you're just making this not fun for anybody, man.
Nah.
I just want to drink beer and have fun,
Yeah, for sure. All right, good stuff. So, all right, good stuff. So you're doing well, you're growing, you're getting business. What's your advice to somebody else starting out? What would you tell them? Same path? What would you do? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently?
Or what would you suggest? What would you recommend to somebody who's getting started?
Pick a specific area of law and don't deviate from it. If you're going to if you're going to start your own firm and you're going to say, I'm going to be a jack of all trades, or I'm going to have a general practice, that's the quickest way to go out of business, I think. If you're going to start your own firm and you're coming out of law school, I know everybody thinks it's really difficult to do, and it's difficult, but building a business is difficult in and of itself. you're going to be better off to do that whenever you're just coming out of law school, in my opinion, because you're young, you're hungry, you're going to get out there, you're going to network, you're going to keep your overhead low, and you're going to figure out how to get the cases, because nobody's going to come to save you. You've got to. And that was my mentality, you know. Nobody was going to come save me. I had to figure out how to get the cases, you know. So pick a specific area of law and stay focused in that. It will be difficult to say no, but you have to learn. I had that problem where I would take cases that were referred to me by other lawyers. You know, if they're getting referred to you by other lawyers when you're just starting your business, you got to take a very close look at them, because there may be something wrong or something like that. Because, you know, so, you know, if lawyers are just giving you, you know, other PI lawyers, and sometimes making money you can make good money off referral cases, you know, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. Those cases are great for you to start your business on. Take a close look at it, and, you know, learn to say no whenever the cases come in that your gut's telling you. Know, I have the problem still. I still have that problem where you want to make a client happy, but you got to learn. You got to be able to say no, because you'll save the money in the long run, as opposed to, you know, going. I've had my ass kicked. I've got cases thrown out on motions for summary judgment on slip and falls I knew I shouldn't have taken. You know, I had a case. You're gonna get your ass kicked, and if you're not getting your ass kicked in court, you're probably not trying enough cases, or you're not litigating enough cases. So don't be afraid to file lawsuits. Don't be afraid to go into court. You know, a lot of people don't know what they're doing in court, but you'll figure it out. And you know, if you just keep your head down, keep grinding, you'll be good.
Yeah. Do you like to get in front of the jury? Is that?
I do. I mean, I do. I remember my first case though. Whenever I tried my first case. I was unsure. I knew I wanted to be in court, but I was really nervous. But as soon as I started voir dire, I mean, it was like, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things I would go back and critique, and be critical. I'm my biggest critic. So, but it was when I finished, and I got, it wasn't a big case, but it was a purposeful case. I think it was like a $20,000 verdict, but it was good to be trying those cases. And you got to try the small cases, because if you don't, they're not going to take you seriously on the big cases. So it was great to be able to get in front of the jury and learn that that's something I love to do. And you're never going to know unless you do it. Because I wasn't sure at first. I was really nervous, but it worked out, and, you know, I love it now. So
Good, excellent. Well, I know there's definitely a big distinction between, you know, attorneys that want to, you know, settle or litigate and hand them off to somebody.
They know. I mean,
try the case.
Yeah, I was in a mediation, and I was talking Wednesday, and I was talking to the mediator. He's a good guy, and they know. I mean, they know when the lawyers that will and won't. But in my opinion, if you're taking personal injury cases and you're just trying to settle them, I mean, you're nothing more than, really, in my opinion, you're a glorified plaintiff's adjuster, really. You know, it's like hiring a pilot that doesn't fly a plane. So,
all right, good. Well, let's get you in the courtroom. Things are all wide open. People are trying cases again.
Yeah, it's easier now. I mean, it's to get a trial here in Nashville. It's becoming more prevalent, and it's, you know, it's opening up.
Oh, good.
So that's good.
Good. I want to read about you in news.law. So it's a big cases.
I hope it's got to keep my nose to the grindstone, and hopefully I'll be there one day.
All right, good. All right, so listen, I'll let you get back to work, but just final thoughts you want to leave with the audience about your practice and best way to connect with you.
Yeah. If you want to connect with me, you know, I'm big on Twitter, at Meyers Injury Law, and MEYERS is how you spell that. And if you want to connect with me, you just got to shoot me an email at Chad, CHAD, at Meyers Injury Law. And you can give me a call. My phone number is 615-258-9000. If you want to, you know, just talk about a case or connect, or if you've got a funeral home negligence case that you really, want somebody to take a look at, I'm happy to do that too. I hope to connect with some people, and I think that what you're doing with this podcast is really great. I really appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. Good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. Enjoyed it. And for everybody, again, Chadwick Meyers, although you've been calling yourself Chad there, but
Well, yeah.
Chad or Chadwick?
And Chad is what I mean. Judges call me Chadwick, and nobody else really, like, other than my mom. If she's pissed at me, she'll call me Chadwick. That's about it.
You make her proud by going by your real name, right?
I try to be a little bit professional here and there sometimes, but nobody really calls me Chad unless it's my mom and she's pissed. So,
all right, excellent. Anyway, listen, it's a pleasure, and this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform, and we help litigators like you prepare for mediation trials with our Insights platform.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking while you're talking.
No, I was just say it's interesting stuff. EmotionTrac. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks a lot, Chad. Okay, cheers.
Cheers.